This is going to go over lesson 6, variables and if statements for the code.org, creating apps with devices using the Microbit. We're going to go through levels 1 through 11. We start off in level 1 where we need to predict, and you're going to, up here in the instructions, scroll down a little bit and put in your prediction there. And what we want to look at is this code here of what do we think is going to happen. I'm kind of looking at this, and I see we've got two different things. There's var, rectangle width, and rectangle height, and we've got numbers. And looking down here, we have set size, blue rectangle, rectangle width, rectangle height, which is also up here. So we have rectangle width, rectangle height, and for the pink one and the green one, they seem to all use that those same words that are here with the numbers. Let's see what happens when we click on run. We can see that it's going to run those two things and then runs through each one. And we can see that what happened was that it actually then created a rectangle. It made all the rectangles the same width and heights for each one of those of 320 pixels wide and 150 pixels tall. Let's learn more about why that might be. So these are called variables, where it has var. So variables are a bucket that kind of holds anything, just like in math. You'll have x and y as variables, and they can equal any number. In coding, we have the same thing. We have variables, and they can equal numbers. They can equal text. So they can kind of hold on to things that you want to reuse or change in different ways. So we're going to do that more. So the var block is short for variable, which can store a value to be used throughout your code. For example, if you wanted a lot of objects in this to have the same color, you could set the color to a variable and then reuse that variable every time you wanted to use that color. So we can see here that we've got this green and like cyan, and we want to be changing it to like a black and a red. Let's use this idea to create a checkerboard on the screen with alternating colors. So we have this to start off with, and we want to turn it into this. So just looking at that right away, we're going to need to change the colors of it, and we're going to need to change the size of those rectangles. Do this. Number 1, look at the top code. Look at the top of the code, which has several var blocks. And again, var stands for variable. So we've got 4 of them here of color 1, color 2, and what the colors are equal to. And we have the block width and block height, and those are equal to numbers. Edit the colors and the numbers on the right side of the blocks to make the app match the picture to the right. You should only need to change the colors and the numbers. You don't need to add any new blocks to our code. So we're not going to be making any changes to this code down here. We're just making changes to that, because now looking at this is a lot, right? So let's say if we wanted to change the color of our app from the orange and cyan to black and red, that would be a lot that we would have to edit. I would not want to go through and make all the changes to every single rectangle. So that's why we're using variables instead. And I'm going to close these instructions here just to highlight this, of that we can see down here. This is for that first square. We've got block 1. This is block 1. And we've got the background color property is equal to this variable of color 1, meaning that color 1, which is orange, the computer will put orange in there. So what's happening here is that when the computer runs this code, it's going to say, oh, the background color should be this variable color 1. And up here, we told it that color 1 is equal to orange. So the computer, when it runs the code, will swap orange in for that variable. And same thing for the block width. It will take the block width, that number, so it'll put 45 down in there. And I'm going to try my drawing tools here. And it will take 70 and swap that down for the block height when it's kind of running these. And what's nice is that we can see that here block height and block width are used multiple times. So I'll do the block height there and the block height down here. So every single time that we use that variable block height, it's changing it. So again, we would have to, if you wanted to update it to look like that screen without variables, you would be making that change, what is it, 4, 8, 12 times, you'd be typing all these things in. So we'd have 12 times 3 different things. So you would be editing 36 lines of code if we were going to do this manually, just simply to change these things. But instead of 36 changes, we're only going to change 4 lines of code, which that sounds a lot nicer. So let's do that. So we know that we want it to be black and red, and we know that this one is color 1. So we want that one to be black. So I'm going to select orange and type in black. I'm going to press tab to just go to the next field. So we've got color 1, and here we want it to be red. And looking at this one, now we're going to do some math. We know that our window is 320 pixels wide, and we want to be dividing that up by 4. So 320 divided by 4 is 80. And I'm just going to run this, just see how we're doing here so far. Oh, we're doing good. Okay. And then our last one is we need to do the height. Looking at this, we know that the height is 450, and we've got 3 lines. So 450, so 450 divided by 150, or no, divided by 3. 3 is equal to 150. Okay, so we want to put 150 in for that. Oops, 150. All right, let's run it again. And there we go. We got a checkerboard pattern. So you just saved yourself a lot of time. Instead of changing 36 lines of code, you changed 4. Nice. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. This level follows a video, right? So I will link to a video that explains more about variables. We got 3 different videos in this lesson. So I'll put a link to the first video down in the description of this. So go check that out, because this follows a video that teaches you about variables. If you missed the video, we can watch it. Oh, we can also watch it here. That's even easier. So first, watch this video here about variables, and then come on back. So you can just pause this video. So now, editing variables. Variables can be used to store information. This can be useful if you want to update multiple things with the same value. In this example, Amy wrote a program that creates a shadow text effect under her name using multiple text labels. Okay, that looks cool. She's using a variable to update each text label with the same name. But there's a bug in her code. One of the labels isn't updating correctly. So let's run it and see what it looks like. Okay, we've got Amy. Oh, okay. Yeah, so something's wrong there. So we want to do this. Run the code to see what's happening. You should notice one of the labels isn't updating like the others. Yep, that is not. It threw off the whole beautiful shadow thing. Number 2, look at the code and try to determine which label is incorrect, and then update it to use the myName variable correctly. Number 3, replace Amy's name with your name and see the results. Okay, so I'm going to reset this. Let's take a look at our code. So we can see here, I'm going to increase my text size a little bit. All right, so we can see this here. We've got our variable, my name, and Amy. I'm going to change this to mine, first of all. Matt. We want to now fix the bug in the code below. So looking at these, we can see name 1, name 2, name 3, name 4. Those are the IDs of the different labels that are being used to make the shadow effect. And we can see here of my name, and then I see here we've got these double quotes around it. So one of the things about double quotes, so in code, a double quote is kind of like, it's telling the computer to kind of ignore the text that's inside. Don't run it as code. It's just text that we want it to display. So it's like human text that we want to present, but it's not text that we should run as code. So the computer is going to ignore this because this variable is computer code, but here within the double quotes, the computer is being told by the double quotes that it is not code to run, and it should just display the text. And so if we run it again, we can see that when it gets to that one, it's trying to write my name because it's not using the variable. So what we want to do is delete those double quotes there. And so I type in my name, and if I run it, oh, it still didn't work. Why? My name hasn't been declared yet. Oops. We can't figure out what my name is. So let's look at this here. We made a mistake. Do you see it? So to the computer, capital and lowercase letters are two totally different things. So the capital N and a lowercase n are two different things. So here we used camel casing, where we made the first letter of each word kind of like in a variable to help us read it, us humans. We capitalize that N. So we need to make sure that we capitalize that N here also. Otherwise, to the computer, it's a totally different thing. There we go. That was it. So that fixed it, and now we've got our cool shadow. Let's move on to the next one. Nice. All right, let's look at our instructions for this one. So this is level 4, using variables. You can create a variable using the var block. Let's create a variable for the Y position of each rectangle and use it to update the screen. The code has already been started, but we need to finish it. And we can see we've got a number of alerts here in our code that there's something wrong. So for the do this, first thing, create a variable and assign it a value. Drag out a var block and give it a label on the left side, of the equal sign. All right, so we're going to click on, now we can see our toolbox here. We're going to click on variables, and increase my screen size a little here. We are going to drag this block here where we declare a variable. So I'm going to click and drag that block there. All right, so on the left side, we are going to give this a name. Create a variable, and we're going to drag it out there. Okay. And so what should we call this thing? I'm just going to call this Y position, because I can see down here we're going to be changing the Y property of these rectangles. On the right side of the equal sign, type in a number between 0 and 450. So we've got on the left side the name of our new variable that we create, and on the right side of the equal sign we want to type in a number. I'm going to type in 100. And then run our code. You should see all the blocks snap together on the same horizontal line. Try rerunning the program with different values to see how the image changes. Okay. I'm going to just increase our screen size as we get ready to run this. If I run it, oh, nothing yet. Okay, so let's see our error. So Y position is defined, but it's not called. And here we get this alert of underscore hasn't been declared yet. I'm going to minimize the toolbox so you can see my screen better. And looking at this, yes, we created our variable, but we didn't put it down here. So we haven't actually used it yet. So what we want to do is every place that we want to put in a number, because we want these to all line up, we want their Y value to be the same, we need to use this variable. So in this one, we've got the property of rectangle 1. That's this one. And its Y value we're going to change. And here we want to put in that variable. Now normally what you've done before has been that you would select a number or you would type a number in, like 100. But now we're going to use our variable instead of typing in the number. So we're going to say Y position. And if we get our spelling wrong or our capitalization wrong, we'll get an error saying that it didn't exist. So that'll be our kind of like mention that we should look at something. Now I'm going to run it. And okay, So our first block worked, and then it gives us an error here that we haven't. So we're on a good path here. We know that this worked. So let's do that same thing to these other ones now. We're going to type in y position, and y position. So no spaces between the y and the capital P, and the P is capitalized exactly like we have there. So let's go ahead and run it. So it reads the variable, and then it runs each one of those things. Nice. And then if we change this, so I'm going to reset, and I'm going to type in 450 now instead. I'm going to type 400. Okay. And this time what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to do something different because I want to show you how this works. And these debug commands we haven't talked about at all, but this is a really easy way, a really helpful way to learn what's happening in our code. So instead of clicking run, I'm going to click on down in this debug commands. I'm going to click on step in. If you don't see this, you can click on this little arrow here to show it. So click on step in. And now what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and step in one more. So now we first set the variable. And then we run our next one. And now it's going to run this line. It's kind of tough to see the outline there. So I'll move that one down. And then it's going to move that one down. And now it's going to run this next line. We'll click on step in. So you can see it's running one line at a time. And so we can kind of see these chunks of code as we're going along. And if we want to try that again, boom, boom. So it's kind of like a helpful way to be able to see how your code is being run. And it moves it down there. Nice. All right, we're done with that one. So we got all of those blocks to line up. We're going to move on to level 5. All right, with level 5, you're going to be using your Microbit. So you'll want to get that set up. This level follows a video that you may have watched with our class. So we've got our other video here. It is available under the help and tips. Watch that video. Is now going to talk about the counter pattern that we're going to be using in this. So watch that one, then come on back here. Counting presses. Basically what we're creating here is a cookie clicker. If you play the game Cookie Clicker. Eric is creating a program where pressing the A button adds 1 to the value on the screen. And they're talking about the A button on the Microbit. So when you press the A button, it adds 1 to the value on the screen. And pressing the B button subtracts 1 from the value on the screen. This is sometimes called the counter pattern, and we'll explain more about what that is. It gets used a lot in coding when we want to change the value of a variable, like a score in a game. The A button has already been coded, and can you update the B button to work correctly too? So let's try this out. So they've already coded the A button, so we're going to try this out. Oh, I got to plug in my Microbit. Okay. There we go. Oh, it just popped up already. So now I'm going to select that, click on connect to pair it. There we go. So if I press the A button, every time it goes up, and we want to have it so that the B button decreases the score, and that's not happening yet. So do this. Update the counter variable to subtract 1 when the B button is pressed. And we can see this kind of like how we do that, but I'm going to walk you through this here. So we can see, just let's look at our code. We've got a variable of value, and that is this one right there, is where we're putting it. It starts off at 0, so our score starts at 0. So our code for increasing the value is when we press the A button down, then we take that value and we equal it to value plus 1. Now this is the counter this right here, our counter pattern. And the way that this works is when the computer runs this, it's going to take the original number and then make that change. So this first time that it runs, what will happen is that this is 0, and then we're going to add 1. And it's going to take that result and make it equal to, and then we're going to reset. We're going to now change the value of our variable value. So now it is equal to 1, right? So now value has changed to 1. Well, the second time, also it changes it to 1, and then what it does is down here on this next line, it now sets the text of value label, which is this, and it gives that text this. So now value is equal to 1 because we did that counter pattern, and now it's going to change the text here to display that new value. So one of the things that's important to know is that here when we change the variable, what our variable is equal to, that's not actually changing the text yet. We're just changing the variable. And in a separate line of code, then we actually change the variable itself here. And so now when we click it the first time, okay, so when we run this and we press the A button, now it's gone up. So now if we run the code again, what's going to happen this time is that we're going to have 1, now value is equal to 1. So now it's going to be 1 plus 1, and that's going to be 2. That's the wrong one. Oh no, I don't know. Okay, so now it's doing that one. And so now what's going to happen is that then it's going to take this value, and then it will display it there. Okay, so my screen just wasn't updating when I was pressing the button. So that's kind of how the counter pattern works, is that it takes the current value of our variable, adds 1, and then it changes what it's equal to, and then we change it there. So we're going to do the opposite so that B button decreases the score. And so they've already set up the code here so that the B button, when it's pressed down, it's already changing the text label there, but what we need to change is the actual value of our variable. So our variable is called value. So instead of X, we're going to type in value. And we want to put in something like this, but subtracting. So if we click on the math block, we see this one here of the subtract operator. We can click and drag this in. Now you'll notice as I move this around, any box that has that same shape, we can drop this in. But what we want it is on this right-hand side. So our variable goes on the left side, and then our value that we're going to change it to goes there. And because we're making this a counter, we need to know what the current value of it is. What is it currently? So value, and then we're going to say minus 1. So now if we run it, what's going to happen is that A is going to increase it, and then now I press B, is going to decrease it. What's kind of fun is that, let's say you're going to challenge your friend on this. Let's say if your friend is going to be A, so they're going to be increasing the number, and you're going to be B. So one of the things that's kind of fun that you can do is like, right, we could cheat. We could say minus 3 instead and be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you a head start. Why don't you just go ahead and press A a bunch of times, and I think I can click it faster, because then every time you click it, it's going to do minus 3. So no matter what, if the two of you are battling, no matter what, it's like you're clicking it 3 times for every time that they're clicking 1, so they will lose every time. So that's an easy way to cheat with this. Nice work on this one. Okay, we got our cookie clicker. Now, if you want to get really fancy on this, you don't need to. We're done with this level. Here's where then you could switch into design mode and then add in our label. And I'm going to change the text to like epic cookie clicker. And I'm going to change my text size a whole bunch. And then now when we play epic cookie clicker, then yeah, okay. All right, we're done. Move on to the next level. Okay, now we are going to make classic Twitter bird fly. Changing positions. So this is level 6. The counter pattern can also be used to change the position of elements on the screen. Let's make a program where pressing the A button moves the bird up and pressing the B button moves the bird down. Remember that the Y positions are reversed on the screen. Moving up means subtracting. Basically what that means is that up here, Y is 0, and Y increases as we move down the screen. Normally in math, it would be the other way over. It's like, right, like going up, we're adding, like Y is getting larger. But for here, for our code, Y is getting larger as we move down the screen because the top left corner is 0, 0, and numbers increase as we move to the right and down. So do this. Inside the A button event, subtract 1 from the Y position variable and run the code to test our move. And then we'll do the similar thing for B. So looking at our code, we start off with our variable of Y position is equal to 170. So when we run this, our Y position starts off as 170. When we press the A button, then it'll set the property of, for the bird icon, its Y coordinate will be changed to the value of our variable Y position. So when it first runs, when we press our A button, it's going to move the bird to whatever that is. And it'll do the same thing for the B. So if we run it right now, our problem is it is actually changing, it's setting the position for the bird, but it's just not moving because we haven't changed the variable at all. Every time it's just setting its position to 170. So we need to change that. So we're going to go into our variables block, and we want to use this here. We're going to do the same thing as last time, where you're going to use that counter pattern. So we start off with typing in the name of our variable that we want to change, and that is Y position. And here we want to subtract 1 from the Y position because we want it to go up. This is where it's kind of confusing because we want it to go up, meaning that we want the number to get smaller, so we're going to subtract. So we can click on this subtractor block and put that there. And so what we want to do is we want to, for its new Y position, we want to get the existing Y position, and we want to subtract 1 from that Y position. Let's run this and see if this works. It's working. It goes really slow though, so let's up that up a little bit here. Let's try 5. I'm going to reset and run it. There we go. That's easier to see. So our bird goes up as we go, press the A button. B button does not yet because we have not coded that. Because again, changing the variable doesn't directly change the position. We change the position of the bird down here with the set property block. So first we change the variable, then we take that new value of the variable and we use the set property block to actually move the bird. So we're going to do that again. We're going to drag in a new, for the B button, we're now going to drag in our variable block, and this is going to be Y position, lowercase y, capital P-O-S-I-T-I-O-N, and we want to then do plus, because now we want the bird to go down, so we're going to be increasing the number as we move down the screen, so we're going to do plus. Now, here's a pro hack. You could click and drag in the plus operator, like we do with the minus, but code.org also kind of knows what we mean when we just type it in. So I can type in Y position plus, I'm going to put in 5. And when I hit enter, watch what happens to this text. It automatically swapped in this orange math operator block because it understood what I meant was that I was adding those things. So let's go ahead and run it. If we press A, it's moving up, and then B, it is moving down. I'm going to show you guys also a really helpful thing that we're going to probably use later on in here. And that is in the debug commands section. And what we can do is we can set up things that are called watchers. Because one of the things is that right now, as the bird moves up and down, we are just kind of guessing at what we're assuming of like what that variable number actually is. Like, we're just kind of assuming what that number is, but right now I don't know what the actual value is. And sometimes when we're debugging it, it's nice to know what that is, because we're just kind of guessing of like, okay, well, I know it's going down, so it's the number's getting bigger, but I don't know what the actual number is. What you can do in the debug commands is set up watchers, where you can type in the name of the variable that you want. So I want y position, and I'm going to hit enter. And now, what's really cool about this is that as I change the value, I'm going to increase my screen size here so you can see this a little bit better. As I change the position of the bird, I'm pressing the A and B buttons, you can see what is the actual value of that variable. So right now, the variable y position is equal to 110. So as I press A, it's now going to subtract 5 more. Press it again, and each time it's subtracting 5. And when I press B, it's going to add 5 each time, and we can see that is actually happening to the numbers. So these watchers are a helpful way to kind of help you understand how the code's working, and also when something's not working, it kind of helps you know why something is or isn't working. Nice work on that. So we are done with level 6. Let's go ahead and click on finish, and we're going to move on to the next one. All right. Actually, for this video, I'm going to go ahead and stop here. I'm going to make a part 2 video for this. So go find the lesson 6 part 2 video where we get into the if statements.